Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome once again to another Wednesday night right here at the Sportz Krib. Uh, yeah, I know we know football, and well, hey, if you are a USFL fan, uh, hey, season should be starting very soon. Or I'm showing my age again. I think it's UFL, but I'm sure somebody will. In the audience here will tell me what the real title is. But anyway, welcome, as I said, once again to another Wednesday night right here at the Sportz Krib. As you can see, all our commercial stuff is down there along the bottom. You can go to our YouTube channel. You can subscribe and donate. It's right there at $ JEK3. So, with that going on, I guess we'll make this all Pittsburgh show tonight. I see Dave's here, but doesn't seem like the rest of the crew. I don't see Bo is listening, but hey, let's get Dave up here and get stuff started. Good evening, Dave. How are you?
Hey, James, doing okay.
I just
It's
called.
really, really cold. 17 degrees out there right now.
I just called Pittsburgh, and my buddy was saying the same thing. Yeah, it's really, really cold. It's like, hey, but that's why I moved out here to California. I understand it though, you know, but you know, well, maybe when you get a little older, Dave, you'll try the West Coast, But you are close to Florida, so that might be an alternative also. But they got snow down there though, so
Yeah, no, it's been some crazy weather.
yeah. So, uh, Dave, how have things been since last week?
Doing okay. We were, they announced that the Steelers are going to be playing one of their 9 home games in Ireland. So, that's exciting. So we have to wait till May to see exactly what date that is. But I'm going to try to go.
It,
So,
I'm not sure, but at one time I know was it Mr. Rooney that was the ambassador to Ireland? I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. Under the Obama administration,
Yeah,
Dan Rooney.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
I knew it was something like that, but uh, they do have a Sue's Corner this evening.
indeed. So here's what Sue has for us tonight. The biggest sports story of the week is tomorrow night's USA versus Canada hockey game for all the marbles. The previous game was a barn burner from the opening 9 seconds, where there were 3 fights to the desperate and almost successful attempt by Canada to tie the game at the very end. This is hockey at its finest. The decision makers at the NHL and the players have shown that this is how you show off your all-stars. Not playing flag football or goofy basketball things. You go out and play these games like you are going to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup or the gold medal at the Olympics. All in. Because to these players, it is that important. For a lot of them who haven't had the privilege to play for the gold or the cup, this is the biggest game they have ever been in. And even for the old decorated veterans like Sidney Crosby, it is extremely important. When asked to compare it to the 2010 Olympics, where Crosby scored the winning overtime goal to beat the USA for the gold, he said, quote, "It's been a long time since 2010, unquote. My mind hasn't gone there, to be honest with you. My mind hasn't gone there at all. Just understanding the challenge, trying to learn from the last game we played against the U.S., knowing what we're up against, it's an opportunity." So for Sue, she says, "It will be one of the few times I'll actually root against my favorite guy, Sid the Kid. He's just too good and ageless in this sport." For the United States, it's the opportunity of a lifetime to grow the sport. And as Americans, we don't want a repeat of 2010 when the preliminary win was the highlight. We want to win it all tomorrow night, and there will be new television viewing records set for this one to see if we can pull it off. Even if you aren't a hockey fan, you will want to watch this version of Gladiator 3. It's going to be a doozy. So that's Sue's Corner.
Yeah, I saw the what was it? As she mentioned, 3 fights in the first 9 seconds, or 9 fights in the first 3 seconds, whatever it was. But back to that old time hockey again. The kind that we were used to seeing. Especially like I remember the Rangers against the Blackhawks. I mean, not the Blackhawks, against the Bruins. And then the Penguins. We had our thing. That was before the Capitals. So the Barons, which was the Penguins' kind of farm team, used to play in Cleveland. So they had their own little ice thing up there. It was, hey, but I like the Olympic hockey matches too.
Yeah. Well, this is what they've done for their All-Star format. I think that they really hit the right formula. So they had 4 nations involved. The players from Canada, the USA, Finland, and Sweden. I think that those were the 4, and they could actually expand it if they ever wanted. If they ever went to include Russia, they would have a strong team. There's a lot of Czech and Slovak players.
I was going to say, no more Czech. What is that? Slovenia now, or Slavia? What is Czechoslovakia now? 2 or 3.
Well, you have Czechia, which is the Czech Republic, and then you have Slovakia.
Yeah.
So they split a number of years ago, but they could do a combined team.
Yeah.
Other countries have done that, and they would have enough players to pull it off. But these guys are playing hard. I mean, they're really going for it. And the 2 brothers, I guess they were half Ukrainian and half Irish, which is quite a mix. So those are the 2 guys that started the first 2 fights. And they kind of planned it. They had kind of communicated with each other. But the third one, they didn't realize that was going to happen.
Yeah.
So Canada's going to be itching for revenge. Canada's really going to want to come back to.
Oh yeah.
Because that was embarrassing for them. That was up in Canada.
3-1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there was an empty net goal at the end. But they're going to be coming back for beer.
Yeah. But always get glad to have some other sports. Talked about. Sue always makes sure that we have a variety of sports to talk about. You never know what Sue's going to be talking about in her corners. So, that's a good thing. So, but I know you don't usually participate in a lot of NBA, Dave, but I only got a couple questions tonight. What do you think of an international all-star game instead of what we have now? Usually, it's like Kyrie is talking about playing for Australia, or something like that. But something to I don't know if you watched the NBA All-Star game. I didn't. I haven't for a lot of years. I might watch the dunk contest or some of those skill contests, but it just doesn't have the same excitement. I think the last year I watched it, it was 200 and something whatever it was. Yeah. Something, I'm used to the bad boys, '89 and '85. you know,
Right, right.
the
Well,
no defensive score. We'll talk about that later on. But what do you think? You think that it would be more exciting if the All-Star game was in an international format?
I think it's worth a shot. I mean, and I believe that the players have expressed interest in it, and so if the players are up for it, I think that the NHL is they've shown them one model, but they could just have one game. They could have the NBA USA All Stars versus the World NBA All Stars, and
Yeah.
I think that I I think that would get their competitive juices going,
I,
and
I,
it would be more of a game, especially if the players are expressing interest in it. Because I think somebody sat out this last All Star game, just came and
LeBron,
sat out. Yeah,
LeBron,
I'm not even going to play.
yeah, LeBron
Yeah,
said first time in what 20 years, or
yeah.
however many years he's been there. First time he set out.
So I just think that if there's some bragging rights involved now, USA or the world, and I
yeah,
think that players would be less inclined to sit out. They would want to win that game.
yeah. I don't know what. Do the Spurs have a U.S. player on their? I don't know if Pop even has a U.S. player on his
I, I,
roster.
I don't know.
But but I just thought it might be an interesting concept after what the audience just went through with the last All-Star game.
Yeah. Well, I think the NHL just showed them the way because there was a lot of interest in that format that the NHL just went through.
Yeah. And uh, it could be good. Hey, have a couple basketball fights. Yeah, I mean, I know that there's no more the bad boys left, but maybe that would get some excitement going. We have Embiid trying to duck on Antetokounmpo, something else.
And
you know,
I think the NBA is already physical enough where they don't need the fisticuffs, but and I'm sure it would be a very physical game, very very physical game.
Dave, how can you call the NBA physical and they're scoring 150 points every night?
Well, I mean, but I think that this game would become more physical.
Well, I'm kind of with Draymond as I mentioned. Our other question here. Draymond says that the game's becoming a little too boring, and one of the people why people don't watch is because there's less physicality. Now, I know we're in that age where you protect the player and so forth and so on, but there's still kids out there playing on blacktop.
Right. Right.
I mean, you're in Maryland, Dave. I mean, what I'm sure like on your drive, if there's any basketball courts around, you see kids out there all the time. Well, now they put that a different surface, but basically they're outside playing basketball. And you know, it, my ball out, YMCA basketball, no referees. I mean, this is the way kids come up. Why do you get softer I mean, if you're a boxer, you face tougher competition going up.
Well, I think if you watch the U.S. teams when they compete in the Olympics, they're forced to be more physical. And I don't know if that impacts the selection process for the teams, but I mean I don't I don't watch the NBA. To me it's boring, but I do watch Olympic basketball. I think it's a better sport. That I like the format better, and it is a little more physical of a game than the NBA. At least the NBA, where it was going whenever I stopped watching it. Because I was just seeing people going up and down the field or up and down the court, just hitting threes and
Yeah.
slamming it in, and it wasn't, to me, it wasn't very exciting. The only thing that got exciting, maybe, if it was a close game, were the last 2 minutes, but the rest of the game, to me was a bore. Now in what they do in like Olympic basketball, they play quarters, like old school.
Well, not only that, but they play mostly European rules also.
They play European rules, but the other thing that the quarters do is that you have this thing about who's going to get the last score in to end the first quarter. And so there's a strategy at the end of the first quarter, at the end of the second quarter, at the end of the third quarter, at the end of the fourth. Whereas in the NBA, it's like, maybe at the end of the half, you're trying to get the score. But then after that, nothing really matters till you get down to the last 2 minutes.
Well,
and you could be down 10 points with 2 minutes to go and win the game in the NBA.
Well, we've had them come back from 18, and really, deep double digits. I mean, but the thing of it is like I'm agreeing with you here. It has become boring. You don't have guys are crashing the board, at will, like you said, slam dunks, that. That's why I have a little problem with the scoring king. LeBron hit 2003s. Well, there wasn't even a 3-point shot when Kareem was the scoring king. So rules have changed. Basketball used to be played in quarters. In high school, I believe it's still played in quarters, isn't it? I don't. I haven't been to a high school basketball game in many
I'd have to ask Sue.
Yeah.
Sue would know.
But yeah, so yeah, it does, as you say, seem to become boring. But this next thing kind of combines basketball and football because, we've seen students rush the court or rush the field after a particular game. Maybe Alabama, Georgia, and Georgia beats a heavily favored Alabama at Georgia, and Georgia, tears down the goalposts. Things that we used to think that were normal, during, our day. But the athletic director at Alabama, Mr. Burns, he endorses an extreme solution for students rushing the court or rushing the field. And he says that they should forfeit the game. We've already seen, I believe Vanderbilt's been fined $300,000 this year in total for their students rushing the field. But to forfeit a game, what do you think? Kind of extreme there, Dave? What do you think?
Well, that's the game that went to my mind. I mean, can you imagine the excitement that all those Vanderbilt fans had at that upset? And I would hate to see them have to forfeit the game. Fine them. Require restoration of whatever damage that they caused. I see that. But for forfeiting, I would kind of reserve that for if fans came onto the basketball court or on the football field before the final whistle was blown, while the game is still being played. Then I could kind of get behind, okay, you can't control your fans, you're going to forfeit this game, because we've had to stop play. But once the final whistle goes, to me, the result of the field, the result on the field should stand. And there's other sanctions that you can do. So, and you mentioned the big fine that Vanderbilt got, but I think that the result of the game, the win or the loss, should go on what happened on the field. And the one exception I would have, where I would kind of agree with Burns, is if the fans came onto the field during play, before the final whistle was blown.
But we've had the band get on the field before. I mean, come on. I'm sure you remember that play, Dave.
Right. The Washington, is that Washington or California?
Yeah, I think it was Washington.
or it might have been California.
It might have been
they had to like maneuver, but that was the band. There was some miscommunication there. That was that was the wrong thing. But in that case, they were going to celebrate and they got scored on. So, but I don't like the idea. I would hate the thought of Vanderbilt having to forfeit that game because their fans rushed the field after the game. That doesn't feel right to me.
No, I agree with you. Forfeiture, I think, is a little, too much. You could do, maybe a gradient fine, like the first time $100,000, the second time something like that, maybe. But I would not, take that away from the fans, the school. I mean, that's one of the things about college football, the excitement, the exuberance, like when there's an upset, you see all the fans rush to court. I mean, come on.
Same thing in college basketball. Same thing happens.
Yeah. Well. He was in. That's why I said on the court or on the field. So I mean, but this could also mean so suppose the volleyball team has beats the number one team. I mean,
you could apply to any sport, and right, I mean, but where I would draw a distinction is if the fans interrupt the game.
Right. Yeah. If they interfered with the, then that's a whole different, But
I could see forfeiture at that point.
Yeah.
But not after the final whistle.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that.
I mean, there are numerous examples we could go to, but I think forfeiture is too much, just as you do. I know we don't talk a lot of college football either here, but we have been lately since Penn State was doing so well. Don's Texas Longhorns were doing well. We have the Big 20 now, big whatever it is, however, and the SEC that looks like they're, like who ever heard of it, SEC teams being so good at basketball. I mean, that was, something that they just played in the off season. But what do you think about the stock of Cam Ward and Shadir Sanders? Do you think it's dropped in these last couple of weeks?
Well, they apparently they just had a joint practice at UNLV, Ward and Sanders, and I guess apparently Ward was kind of dissing Sanders, because they were talking about his completion rate, but he was saying, well, he doesn't throw the ball down the field. If I threw the ball where he does, I'd have a 90% completion rate. But I mean, all that said, I look at the demand. And so you got at least one, two, three, four, five, six, at least 16 NFL teams in dire need of a quarterback. The Tennessee Titans, Cleveland Browns, New York Giants, the Raiders, the Jets, and the Saints. All of those teams, they need a quarterback. Now, maybe they could go to free agency, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But with the draft, um, the Titans have the first pick, the Browns the second pick, the Giants the third pick. Then the Raiders have the sixth and the seventh, and the Jets the seventh, and the Saints the ninth. And so, would you want to be the GM that passed on picking one of the two best quarterbacks in the draft when your team needs a starting quarterback? So I don't think that they're going to drop out of the top 10. Will they be 1 and 2? Maybe not, but they might be 1 and 3. Where say the Titans pick Ward, for example, the Browns go for somebody else, they make a clown move, and then the Giants pick up Shadir. But I don't think that their stock is down. I don't think it's a deep draft, but those are the two best quarterbacks of not a very deep quarterback class, but you have a bunch of teams that really need a starting quarterback.
Yeah, and this is a story that we've seen before. A bunch of teams that need quarterback and reach instead of, really solidifying their team. Uh, so yeah, I'm yeah, and Ward, he might be, one of those guys. He's, he's like Santa Claus. He's making a list and checking it twice of those teams that pass him up. So, he might turn out to be, maybe, if one of these guys would turn out to be a Bo Nix or even a Caleb Williams, I would say, they did their job. I'm not expecting them to be a Daniels, but I mean, hey, you never can tell, I'm going to talk a little bit about Ohio State here today. He becomes the second highest paid player in the NCAAF. Patricia has now signed to replace Knowles as the defensive coordinator. And we have Hartline. He's replacing Hartline from the Broncos, I believe. He's replacing Chip Kelly as the offensive coordinator. What do you think here, Dave? Loading back up or what?
Well, first you mentioned Day becoming the second highest paid coach. Just real quick on that. I love your questions because it makes me think, and sometimes I have to do a little research. But it turns out that he's one of only 3 active coaches that have won a national championship.
That's why he got the extension, because like I said, I really believe if he had lost to Tennessee, he'd be in the unemployment line. But
especially after losing to Michigan at the end of the season. Yeah.
Right.
But Kirby Smart, he won in 2021 and 2022 with Georgia. He's the highest paid coach. And then you have Dabo Swinney, who won in 2016 and 2018 with Clemson. He's the third highest paid coach. So they put Day right in between those two. But what I didn't realize, those are the only 3 active coaches that have won a national championship. Because the others, you had Saban, you had the guy from Oregon that I think might have retired after they won. And then who's the other guy? Urban Meyer. And
Oh,
he's
yeah.
and it was LSU. Ed Ergeron from LSU. I think he retired maybe the year after he
The
won
year
the
after, yeah.
championship. Yeah, and then Jim Harbaugh was the other, who just won with Michigan. Well, all of those guys are out of football. So since 2014, just Ryan Day, Kirby Smart, and Dabo Swinney are the only active coaches to win a championship. So I think that's interesting and fair. I mean, he's right in between them. With the coordinators now, Patricia, he has not coached in college since he was a graduate assistant. And so to me, so he's been coaching in the pros all this time. And so to me, the question is he going to be able to adapt to the modern college football player? Because back when he was a grad assistant, that's before they had NIL, that's before they had the transfer portal and all this. And the coaches probably had a more godlike persona, any coach, because those scholarship players, they were kind of stuck. It was hard for them to transfer them.
Yes, it was.
Now it's a lot easier for these players to move. And if they don't like their coach, hey, I'm going to go in the transfer portal. So I'm just wondering how Patricia responds to that, because he has not. He's been in the NFL all this time. Now Hartline was he was the co-offensive coordinator last year with Chip Kelly. In 2023, he was Ohio State's offensive coordinator. And he's been with Ohio State, I think, since 2017. So he's kind of grown up with the program, and he's already been the coordinator for all intents and purposes. So to me, there should not be much of a change with Hartline. To me, the bigger question is what happens with Patricia, or I'm not. Is it Patricia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh, there's Mr. Moneybags, Anthony.
Greetings.
Well, I noticed he didn't correct you, so evidently, things must be rolling rolling right along. Yeah. So, Mr. Scott, who are you representing this evening?
Who am I representing?
I was looking at your hat. Usually I can read it, but I couldn't read it this evening.
Oh, this is just one of my Cadillac hats.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, as he said, you notice he didn't say one of his Chevrolet hats or one of his Ford hats.
Well, no, with all his money, all of his winnings, it's just a Cadillac. You know what I'm referencing, right, Anthony?
What was this the last time we did some bets?
Yeah.
Prop bets.
Yeah.
So only two people were in the black, and everybody was in the red, except I made $145 off of a $1,500 investment. You cleared 910. You blew everyone away. Everybody else was in the red.
I've been on a roll.
Speaking of on a roll there, Mr. Scott, I was asking everybody about their weather. Have you packed up your bags and ready to move to Atlanta yet? Or
well, why do we have to go there? I mean, I get enough calls about stay warm, stay. Yeah, I've been scoping out some tickets to Miami Beach for about a week. Just to kind of get out of it, because this has been absolutely ridiculous. I mean, 20 below, 25, and that's the temperature. every morning.
Well, you said that's not.
Wasn't it Detroit where that water line broke, flooded the street, and then froze solid?
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
like pictures of these cars like half frozen in frozen water.
Yeah, they had a lot of snow there too in Detroit. So,
and there's more their way because we just had rain and that is moving toward the east. So but Mr. Scott, we were talking a little NBA here, and one of the things that I was asking about was what do you think of changing the format of that All-Star game to maybe the world versus the USA, rather than some of this stuff that we're getting now, 216 points. I mean, I think it's ridiculous, but people say
well, it is ridiculous. I mean, they have to do something. I mean, I would just, when the All-Star games and Super Bowls and all those things come on, they tend to show you some games and things from the past. And I watched the All-Star game in the past, and they just for the announcements of all the people that were there, it was unbelievable. I mean, I think it was like 87 or 88, and it was the last year Kareem was in the All-Star. I mean, Moses Malone was in the All-Star. I mean, Michael Jordan. I mean, it was just Dominique. It just went on and on and on. And the game was a real game. I mean, it was a real game, and it went to overtime. That shows you how serious they were. And that's why they don't want to do that anymore. I don't know. I guess once I guess like B.B. King says, it's hard to play the blues when you're doing okay. You know what I mean? So I guess that they don't have to work. And then Take My Talents, he just shows up at the last minute and says, "Oh, I'm not my ankle. I'm not able." He just preens around, like he owns the place. Yeah, they have to do something, because that was a shambles. That was a shambles. I mean, the only thing that might have been able to save it if they had James King doing the Crip walk. Maybe that saved it, but
I hate the sound. I mean, we once there was a movie, A White Man Can't Jump, but the guy that's won the dunk contest for the last 3 years has been, what was it, McClue? What was his name?
Jumped over the car.
Yeah. But it has to do. We have to do something, as you said, if you're going to make it viable again.
Yeah, that was just,
Another thing we were talking about, Mr. Scott, the AD at Alabama says that if the students storm the court or the field, the game should be forfeited. What do you think about that? I mean, we've seen years, where students have, if you win a big game, like for instance, when Vanderbilt won this year, they've been fined $300,000, for their students, storming the court. But what do you think? Forfeiture, isn't that? Don't you think that's going a bit far?
Yeah, but I mean, I think those things can cause a lot of liability with all these people running around on the court. I mean, people can get hurt. There can be, I mean, they have to do something about that. I don't know that, this forfeit, I think that's a little bit too much. But I mean, I think, maybe, fines and suspensions, like the old WWE, fines and suspensions if you run out on the court. But yeah, there should be something as a deterrent. You have to have something to stop them. But there's so many people that once they come out there, what do you do? So who do you fine? You fine the school?
Well, they fined Vanderbilt. Like I said, they got fined $300,000 over the course of the year for their students. But like I was saying, maybe you make it, the first time $100,000, the second time $500,000, or I mean, you know, uh, but to forfeit the game, I think that's going a little bit, and uh, these are college kids. You find the school, but or like you said, maybe you suspend, uh, uh, but how do you know? Well, there's facial recognition, I guess, but but I do think that forfeiture is going a little too far.
Well, I think it's the whole thing is that how do you deter it? Is that something that'll make it? I mean, do they at that point do they care about winning that they won, or do they just want to get out there and storm the field? I mean, that's
Well, I don't think we've had any losing teams score, you know, storm the field. But yeah, I mean, if Minnesota should happen to beat uh, Ohio State, I'm sure Minnesota fans are going to storm the field.
well. I
You know,
mean,
I mean, I mean,
this isn't the first time that that's happened. I mean,
of
this
course
has
not.
been going on. This has been going on for you know,
Eons. I mean, it's
yeah,
happened. I mean, it's happened to like back in my generation, in your generation, Dave's. If your team upsets the favorite,
yeah.
that's
And then they jump the gun. Where the game really isn't over, and the band's out there doing a thing, and so the band got to go through all these people.
well,
So there should be something as a deterrent to do that.
we said maybe if it interferes the game, then you can go to forfeiture, or like you said, so somebody comes, you jump on the field, and the game's still in progress, then maybe you go to forfeiture. But a celebration after the game, I mean, in high school you tore down goalposts. Come on, so let's see. Even though Don's not here, Mr. Scott, what do you think? USA Today says that Sarkeesian is most likely to win his first national championship next year. And what do you think? You think Texas is going to be the one? Arch Manning starts. He's going to be starting. He's going to be probably the favorite for the Heisman. So, what do you think? Is Texas going to be the team next year?
Well, they could be. It'll be very interesting to watch. With a Manning, I think all eyes will be on there to see how he does. Hopefully he won't go the Shador route and become a rapper and have more interest in outside activities. But I think it's a good shot. I mean, I think there'll be a lot of interest with the Manning there, and if he's as good as his lineage, yeah, why not?
Yeah. He was coming off the bench last year, and he was talked about in the Heisman conversation. So what do you think there, Dave? I don't think we have to worry about a Manning becoming a rapper. But what's your thoughts there, Dave?
Yeah, they should be able to have a shot. They're in a real competitive conference, so then we get to the questions of the number of losses that they might have during the year. But who are the other teams that are going to come back? I think Penn State's going to be trying to make a run at it, but I see them as maybe a 4 or 5 team, not a number 1 team. Is Ohio State going to be back in it? What about Oregon? But no, they should have a legitimate shot. Especially if he plays anything like his lineage indicates. Maybe that's the catalyst that they need to take them to the championship.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I said. He was mentioned last year when he was just in as a substitute So we'll see how how the big push is, and are they going to do the same thing that with him that they did with Eli? Remember, they wouldn't let Eli come to the Chargers. That's how he ended up as a Giant. So, the Mannings have some clout, So uh, I don't think we'll see him end up as a Raider, but we'll see. uh, let's see. Who else? I think that'll just about cover us here. Oh yeah, guys. There's a rumor going around. The meeting hasn't started yet. That there's going to be the SEC and the Big 18 are going to want to make some changes. They're going to want a 4-team or a 16 game format. What do you guys think? After the 12, should we stick with the 12? Add two more to 14, 16? What do you think, Dave? Too many, just right? Are we playing the Three Bears here? What's going on?
Well, I think one of their concerns was that all four of the bye teams, all four of the teams that got byes lost.
Yeah.
So and I think one of the things that they were talking about was what they call straight seeding. So that they would seed the teams more along with what their national rankings are.
Right.
But to me, if you want to avoid having the embarrassment of having the four teams on bye lose, just go to a 16-team format, and there's no byes, and you're not adding any more. I don't think you would have to add a weekend. I would have to look at the way the brackets play out, but I think conceivably, just go to a 16-team format, and you don't have any byes at that point.
What do you think, Mr. Scott?
Well, that whole college thing, I mean, I've just been so thrown by it because it really depends on who you play. And then when they got this playoff format that, it seems like a team can rise through the playoff format somehow. So I don't know. It's kind of a confusing hodgepodge to me and then you end up playing some teams during the year that you might not really play until the bowl games. But then some of those matchups happen during the year. So how does that affect the whole thing? So I'm a little bit on the outside looking in with the college thing, especially since, the Big 10, now you say Big 18, these other schools, and they don't play everybody in there. I mean, Minnesota hasn't played Ohio State, and I can't remember when the last time they played them. So I don't even know how you tell who's really good.
Yeah. Well, that's true. But it's a lot better than the old thing where the national championship was based on a ranking. So then, you would have, way back in the day, you had Texas and Penn State undefeated, and they made Texas the champion.
Yeah.
And they didn't get a chance to play each other. So yeah. I like the college playoff because they're playing each other, but you could end up with a situation like with Ohio State and Oregon, where Oregon beat them in the regular season, right? And then Ohio State then beat them in the playoff. Well, if you want to be the champion, you got to be hot at the right time.
Yeah. And now, for as funny as it sounds, Oregon and Ohio State are actually in the same conference.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm still.
Some of those matchups to me just don't make a lot of sense. I mean,
well, we do know that there's a very, there's another part of this, even though we're talking about the sports and athletic part, there is a financial part to this. that we're not talking about. So we all know that does play into how this plays out. But I'm with you, Dave. 16 teams, no bye week, you know, uh, and best team or whatever wins. Of course, I'm biased. I like my Buckeyes, but we'll see if they bounce back. I do. See, I'm like you, Dave. You know, uh, top 10 definitely. Until they fall out. And right now they're national champs, so they got a target on their back. So we'll see how that. I don't
Yeah,
know.
and I might go with that straight seeding where you don't, right now, if you're a conference champion, you're automatically one of the top 4 seeds. And I would rather go, well, no, just go with what the national ranking is. And, it just might be a year where the Southeast Conference is stronger so that the second team from the Southeast Conference is seated higher than the Big Ten champion. But if they're a better team, then they should be seated higher.
Yeah. Then again, like if they're a better team, then maybe going through a 16 team format, you'll prove that, and it won't be like
Oh yeah.
Mr. Scott, where certain teams never get to play it, one another. That's when you have an 18 team conference, that's going to be I am going to be very interested to see how this works out because they also have to play some out of conference games, for that revenue. So, I'm going to be interested in seeing how the Pac 18, and they're talking about even expanding. So we'll see, how this works out. But all right, guys, let's talk a little NFL. There's an announcement early this morning, actually, that they're going to the cap is once again going to be increased. I think this is the second time in these last couple of years that it's been increased. I think now it's going to be they're getting an extra 23 million per team. Or more. It's something that they have to negotiate with the players committee. But I do see where there is a significant increase. Mr. Scott, what do you think? Extra 23 mil? Hey, somebody might have some money to pay the banker now.
Yeah, these some of that's kind of mystifying to me too. I mean, you look at like your team, your great, the great Pittsburgh team. They got 2 quarterbacks, 2 potential starting quarterbacks, and it sounds like they don't want either one of them. Sounds like they're looking at your great friend ayahuasca. Sounds like they're looking at the banker. I'm sure they got you just twisting and turning right now. Because sounds like they don't want either one of the two. So and so the cap plays into that. I mean, because I think you can still get Wilson at a bargain. Doesn't he have one more year on that Denver contract?
No. But both of them will be. They'll have to pay whoever they sign, Fields or Wilson. They'll have to pay them full freight this year.
That's a big going rate, and they don't seem to be too interested in doing that.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. Art Rooney II, he indicated that his preference is that they sign one or the other. Yeah. It's more the pundits have been throwing out Rodgers,
Stafford.
They're throwing out all these names now.
But when you say they want
Sam Darnold,
one or the other, I mean that just That just sounds very, very wishy-washy. I mean, from
Well,
the
because
standpoint,
what Art Rooney's point is that he's saying that both of them are starting quality quarterbacks. They're both going to want to start, and there's no sense trying to bring both back. That they need to pick one or the other and bring that person back to be the starter, and let the other one, go out onto the market. That's what his point is.
So Dave, are you saying that Mr. Rooney thinks that either one of these guys are worth $60 million?
No.
Because that's the going rate for a starting quarterback, right?
Well, I mean, if it depends. I mean, if you look at all the starting quarterbacks throughout the league, they weren't all making 60 million a year, and so probably
Well, even 30 million.
they're probably looking somewhere between 20 and 30 million for a Wilson, probably between 15 and 25 million for a Fields, unless his there's so many other teams interested that need a quarterback. Maybe his value goes up because he's younger. He's a lot, he's 10 years younger than Wilson. So, but you're probably looking, I wouldn't think more than 30 million a year.
Okay, so I know, well, what do you think? An extra 23, possibly 25 mil on the high side for each team. How does this affect the Steelers?
Well, it's a good thing for the Steelers. Right now it's bumping up their their salary cap from about their cap space. It's bumping it up from about 53 million that they had up to 60 million, and so what it does is it gives them more room to sign one of the quarterbacks, and then there's a lot of other moves that they need to make. Now, you would think that all teams would appreciate a big increase in the salary cap, but there may be a few teams that it actually hurts.
The Saints?
Well, yeah, because what happens is part of the salary, and I'm not a salary cap guru, but part of the rules is that teams over a 3-year period have to spend 90% of the salary cap on salaries. They have to average over a 3-year period, so that if you have some teams that have been paying players significantly less than 90% of the salary cap, this big increase is going to make it even harder and may force them to overpay some players in order to meet the threshold.
Yeah, Patrick comes to mind, but I guess we'll see how that works out. The Dolphins, they're releasing Mostert. What did you think about that, Dave? Any tread left on that tire?
Well, I mean, just 2 years ago, he scored Raheem Mostert. He led the league with 21 touchdowns.
Yes, he did.
Rushing and passing. Now, last year, he kind of had a down year. And the thing is, and he had like half as many touches as he had in 2023. And he's 33. And so it's like, are you going to sign him to be your number 1 or number 2 running back? I don't know. I see him more maybe, if he wants to keep playing, being signed on as a number 3, or maybe a number 2, but not a number 1 running back. He's not going to be paid that money.
What do you think, Mr. Scott? After we've seen Saquon and Derrick Henry, they've kind of, last year I think they kind of showed the importance of running backs, whereas we thought before, we were talking about the decline of the running back. What do you think there, Mr. Scott?
Well, I think the decline and all of that is centered around, the over 30-year-old running back. I mean, I think that that's where it gets very dicey for the team. And, I mean, say we look here with Aaron Jones. I mean, they had a deadline, I thought, to pay him, but then they both decided to extend the deadline for whatever reason to go into the first week or so of March to give him more time to see. I guess he wants to see if somebody else will give him some money, or if that's going to be the only offer on the table. But the whole thing is the over 30. I mean, Saquon's young. Derek is young. I mean, so they're in the prime. But this, when you get over 30 in the running backs, that's where they're looking at discarding you. They're looking at saying you're ineffective. And that's pretty much been the case on the field. I mean, I look at Delvin Cook, who was just a fantastic running back, and all of a sudden the door just slammed. I mean, he was with the Jets. He couldn't even make it onto the field. He went to Baltimore. They didn't even play him. So that is, I guess I'd be looking more at these. I saw some good-looking backs in college this year, and I think that's, if I was a GM or if that was me, that would be the way I'd be looking to go.
Okay. To be or not to be, Mr. Scott, the Chiefs have given Kelsey until the 14th of March to make up his mind about whether or not he's going to retire. Do you see them either telling him he can retire or move on?
Yeah, I would say he's kind of a unique deal with them. I mean, I think that, I think they'd like to have him back if he wants to play, but that's the big thing. I mean, and then they have to show the teams that they want to play. They can't be hedging. They can't, I'm going to go Hollywood, or, they have to show teams that they want to play. So I think he's going to play. I think he's going to play another year, but I guess we'll see.
What do you think, Dave?
Well, I mean, he is under contract for 2025. The difference is that they had worked out his contract so that his 2024 contract was fully guaranteed. The 2025 contract is not. So if, the question is does he walk away from $17.2 million? Because if he doesn't play, he doesn't get that money. And then for the team, I believe that becomes that would become a cap savings for the team. And so depending on how they evaluate it, is what he's going to produce worth the 17 million, or are we better off saving that 17 million and using it for something else? But if I'm Travis Kelce, why would I walk away from $17 million that I'm under contract for?
Okay. I think there's another guy that might be looking for a payday, considering that the contribution that he made this year, even though his team lost early in the rounds, and that's Mr. Kettle. What do you think? Do you think Kettle will get an extension, or do you think Kettle's, you got a Brock Purdy situation there, but you also got some disgruntled wide receivers, so what do you think about Kettle's value to the 49ers there, Dave?
Well, I mean, the 49ers are kind of in a they're like in a bind in a way, because now you got to pay Purdy. How are you going to keep on? How are you going to keep all the other pieces that have kept them, relevant? Taking 2024 out of the picture. And it's like, do you want to create more holes in your roster, or do you want to try to keep it together if you can, pay Purdy and have another run at the playoffs. Because what's going to happen is if Purdy keeps on producing, he's going to be making more and more money, which is going to be less and less dollars to spend on supporting players. Now this is where this increase in the cap, it probably helps the 49ers. Whatever the final cap figure is. But I would say I wouldn't want to create a hole in my roster right now. I would be in the position of trying to hold on to as many players as I can to make an early run at the playoffs.
Yeah.
Especially if they lose like Deebo Samuel, and then who knows what's going to happen with Brandon Ayuk. He just his whole season he kind of held out last year, then was playing, and then he got hurt. They could be losing Samuel, so I would be trying to hold on to Kittle.
Well, where does McCaffrey fit into their picture? I mean,
McCaffrey's still signed. I don't think they have to worry about McCaffrey until
they have to worry about getting him on the field.
Well, but I mean, he's still officially listed as a 49er, and they don't have to, give him any more money. His contract's not up. But like you say, you got a disgruntled Ayuk, you got a disgruntled Deebo. You're talking about probably giving Purdy, I would say, somewhere within the $40 to $50 million range at least, if not giving him Dak Prescott money. So, but why would you give him $60 million if he doesn't have anybody to throw the ball to?
Yeah, well, that's why you would want to try to keep Kittle, and that's why they did what they had to do to keep Ayuk last year.
Yeah.
It was the same thing. And McCaffrey, he's 29, so he's knocking on that 30 door that you were talking about. So again, it's like I think that they're a now team. They're not looking 2 or 3 years from now.
No, they're not.
They're looking at making a run now.
Yeah, I mean, Bosa and all those guys, I think this is the last year. After that, they have to start trying to pay them too. So, I think this is the last year that they can try to keep that team together. And the 23 mil, could possibly help in their case. Because like I said, it would seem like they're going to give most of that to Purdy, but we'll see. So Myles Garrett says that he wants out of Clownland, but I heard some very interesting talk, and you tell me what you think. This particular writer said that what they should do is attach Mr. Massage to the trade deal, and a trade and a trade and what do you call it? A trade and release. I don't know what they call it it's kind of like they do in the NBA. That they trade you to a team, but they know that that you're going to retire or something of that nature. What do you think? Mr. Scott, I know Mr. Massage is one of your favorite people. What do we do with Mr. Massage? Say, okay, you can have Myles Garrett, but you got to take this. You got to take Mr. Massage with him.
Either way, somebody's got to pay Mr. Massage.
No, Mr. Massage is paid. He's fully paid.
He's got a guaranteed contract.
Guaranteed $218 million.
Yeah, it's guaranteed.
It don't matter what happened, whether they trade him, put him under the rock. He got his money from Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, you could give me Mean Joe Green and Carl Eller and Deacon Jones, and I still wouldn't take Massage. I mean, I just don't see that he's just an unwanted commodity. And I mean, I'm thinking that it's going to be bargain basement as much as the basement, as far down as the bargain basement will go to get rid of him. And I guess Miles is a chip that they hope they can use to dump him, but who would take him? I mean, Garrett's a good player, but to take Massage too, I can't see anybody taking that deal. I really can't see that. I'd be shocked if anybody would take. I mean, he's shown absolutely nothing. He gets hurt right away. Hasn't played in a couple of years.
What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, this is probably going to go down as the worst contract ever done. I mean, I was just looking at 2025. His cap number is $73 million, and no, it's $73 million. His dead money hit is $172 million, but they could have a cap savings of $100 million. But it's still they're like in purgatory,
and they don't want him. I mean, if he came back and say he's okay, I'm good to go, let's go. They don't want him now.
and the problem is he re-ruptured his Achilles tendon.
Yeah,
and so he had surgery in January. So if he were going to try to play, he's probably not even going to be ready for training camp.
No,
or just coming off of it, and so
he probably won't be available until at least November of next year.
Yeah, I mean, what Cleveland should do is just say, hey, here's a airplane ticket, one way, fly wherever you want, just hang out there, and carry him on the roster. And, just take their medicine. Now, with Myles Garrett, it'll be interesting. I don't think Cleveland wants to let him go. And that's going to be interesting. And if they end up trading him, well, hopefully, they're going to try to get premium price for him. But I think that teams, knowing that the cap situation that Cleveland is in, they might be trying to bargain, lowball their bids on him. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Myles Garrett. But I think that Cleveland wants to keep him.
Yeah, Cleveland wants to keep him, and I think the Commanders want to add him. That I think they would like to have him. I don't know if there's any talks or not. Let's see, Mr. Scott. The Raiders have made a lot of moves. They've added Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, a couple of Pete's sons, all to the coaching roster. There's talk that, the Raiders are looking at Sam Darnold. Mr. Scott, is Sam Darnold going to be a Raider, or are the Vikings going to put a franchise tag on?
Well, there's also talk that they're looking at the Russell Wilson. Funny you didn't mention that.
What?
Funny you didn't mention that.
No, I didn't know. I didn't know. Believe me.
Really? Oh, very interesting. Very interesting.
I would send him to you. You can have him. I have no problem with that.
Maybe we could have a trade, Darnold for Wilson.
There you go. No, I believe me, I had not heard that, Mr.
Yeah. Pete Carroll getting Wilson back, getting the band back together. I certainly have heard that. I'm sure that's been
yeah.
Funny that you hadn't heard anything about it. That's very funny about that. I
No.
understand that.
I've heard about
news must not travel to San Diego like it travels to.
I've heard about Russell Wilson going to the Raiders, reunite with Pete Carroll. I've definitely heard that rumor. Hey, if Russell wants to go back to the Raiders, that would be fine also. But there's also talk of Mr. Darnold. Like I said, are you guys going to put the franchise tag on him, or are you going to let him go into free agency?
Well, I think what they're doing is they're really trying to see how the guy from Michigan is going to be health wise.
McCarthy.
Yeah, if he's ready to come to camp and he's ready to come, then they can make some real, decisions. Or do they think that he needs another year? And maybe they could franchise Sam. But then who knows? Sam might have some offers. There's a lot of quarterback needy teams out there. And he could possibly, finagle his way into one of those $30, $40 million multiple year deals. And I don't think he's going to get a multiple year deal here. So that's to be determined. It's to be determined. The wheels are turning now. And what I think, net is they'll probably stick with Sam another year if they can work that out. But he may have other options.
He definitely does. And actually, in our town hall, when we were talking about free agents on offense, our conclusion on our town hall is that we see the Steelers signing either Wilson or Fields with the preference for Fields because of his age. But if both of them went to other teams, which is also conceivable, Wilson could go to the Raiders, Fields could go to the Giants, then Sam Darnold, we decided, would be the free agent quarterback that we would want the Steelers to target if they didn't sign either Fields or Wilson. Because right now, Pittsburgh doesn't control the contract situation with those quarterbacks. Russell Wilson and Justin Fields do, because come March 12th, they're going to be free agents. But I think for Minnesota, one of the difficulties is that they have about $63 million in cap space. I think if they were to tag Darnold for 1 year tag, it's $41 million, which eats up a lot of cap space. And then if you do want to go to J.J. McCarthy, are you going to be paying $41 million for a backup?
Well, see, they also have, that they stashed this guy on the taxi squad or whatever you call it, the guy that was on the Giants.
Jones.
Daniel Jones. Yeah,
Daniel Jones.
He's on the Vikings too. So there's some talk of maneuvering. If Sam goes, they might, start with Jones to see if he can get him up to McCarthy. I mean, that's, that's a plan C, D maybe, but he is on the roster.
Because they didn't pay much. They only paid Darnold, $5 million last year or something? Wasn't much?
It was 10.
10?
It was 10.
And so to jump from 10 to 41 million, I guess, the real question, you hit it on the head, is, are they ready to transition to J.J. McCarthy? Is he healthy enough for them to ride McCarthy?
Yeah.
And if the answer is yes, then I think that they'll let Darnold go in free agency. I don't think that they would tag him if that's the case.
Yeah. I didn't realize the tag was that high these days, but
yeah, but like you said, you're getting an extra 23 mil this year, and that's something I want to ask you about, Dave, because we need a lot of defensive help also, as well as offensive line. So when you guys were talking in the town hall, we've released outside linebacker Preston, to save some cap space. But what do we do now? talking about the extra 23 million. Some upcoming moves. There's a couple cornerbacks, free agents that'll be available. God knows we need some wide receiver help. Cooper Kupp is out there. There's going to be a couple others available. I can see, Kupp, as a number two, but I mean, I can see him as a help, period. Maybe even in the locker room sense. But what's coming up here? What have you guys been discussing? I saw you were talking about a couple of guys coming back and a wide receiver. So what's kind of the thought in the conversation on Mondays now?
Well, I think that one, Omar Khan's going to be a very busy man, and he's going to have to be creative because right now, the extra 23 million sounds like a lot, but realistically, when you take out anticipated payments, they're going to have to pay for the draft class. They're going to have to pay once the season starts. They're going to have to pay for the practice squad. They usually have like a $8 million cushion for injured reserve and things like that. So, with free agency, one is they got to sign a quarterback. So that's one. And I think that it's going to be Wilson or Fields. I think that they're going to try to get him for like 25 million. The question is are other teams going to outbid them? What's going to happen there? But they also need a wide receiver, and we kind of see them double dipping in both the draft and in free agency. Now, the Bengals are going to be. It sounds like they're going to be tagging T. Higgins for the second year in a row. So
most definitely. There's no way in the world they're going to let Higgins go.
So other people that we were looking at were like Chris Godwin from the Buccaneers, Darius Slayton, somebody like that. Deebo Samuel came up, but then the question was,
what about Garrett Wilson?
What's that?
What about Garrett Wilson?
He's under contract, so that would have to be a trade. And so then,
Wilson for Pickett.
Yeah, that's what we talked. They're both in the same they're both in the same draft class, and so we were talking there about the possibility of a trade, straight up trade. Pickens for Garrett Wilson.
Yeah,
and that's a possibility. So, but then on defense, where they have some holes are defensive line and then the secondary. Now, we believe that the Steelers are going to draft high, first or second round for a defensive lineman, but they may need to double dip. And so, one is we think that they may go for a using free agency, maybe target somebody like a Puna Ford, somebody like that, like a big bulky guy to take up the middle, so that Keanu Benton can be bumped out to defensive end, because Keanu Benton just isn't effective enough in the middle. He needs to be bumped out closer to defensive end, and then use the draft to draft the heir apparent for Cam Hayward, who's probably, he's probably has max 2 seasons left in him. He's getting up there in age. But then you have the secondary, and there's a lot of cornerbacks available in free agency. So they may have, they may look there. But they also have 17 of their own players that are scheduled to be free agents. And we think that they're going to let quite a few of them walk. But the one that we see as a priority to re-sign is Landon Roberts, inside linebacker. guys like James Pierre because of their special teams value, and they're not going to cost a whole lot. But Landon Roberts is a critical person that they need to re-sign. And then at cornerback, either re-signing Dante Jackson, and if they fail to re-sign Dante Jackson, sign another outside cornerback to pair up with Joey Porter. But it's going to be a lot to do, and with $60 million sounds like a lot of cap space, but it's in today's NFL it gets eaten up a lot. Especially when you're looking at the quarterback salaries. You were talking $60 million. That's why they're going to try to budget down to like 25 or 30 million for a quarterback. Hopefully Russ Wilson or Fields. Unless they get outbid by another team.
I don't want to pay a quarterback 25 million, 30 million, 60 million if he can't throw the ball down the damn field, though, Dave. That's my problem. Let them both go and try to grab somebody. I mean, I'm.
Well, Fields has a good arm. I mean, I think people underestimate his arm. He has a good arm, and he has the added advantage of being very much more mobile than Russell Wilson.
Well, we know about the mobility, but I also have to have confidence that there's a reason why Tomlin went to Russ because he had the better downfield ball. It just seems to me like Fields throws a flatter ball. It's more apt to get intercepted, but maybe that's just me.
To me, they need some receivers because that Pickens was just dropping the ball left and right. I mean, they was throwing the ball right to him and he couldn't catch it.
He had a really bad end of the season. Now, they literally have to rebuild whatever they do with Pickens, whether they extend him, stay put with him because he's still on his rookie contract.
Yeah,
but they still need help there. So that's why I gave those other wide receivers that they might try to sign, and they'll still probably draft a wide receiver as well.
Yeah, I mean, and because your wide receiver also has to have the confidence that the quarterback can get the ball down there to him. So I mean, it kind of goes both ways on that.
But I think to your point, James, is that the reason that they're not going to go in on a $60 million quarterback is they don't have all the pieces in place to protect that quarterback and to catch the balls that he's going to be throwing. And so although Pittsburgh never uses the term rebuild, that's actually what they're doing. And what they need to do is they need to as Anthony said, they need to build up the wide receiver room. They need to make sure that offensive line is developed enough to protect the quarterback.
Yeah, Pittsburgh calls it realigning. We don't call it rebuilding.
Right, or reloading. They like the term reloading. But, but they're going to do that. And then, maybe they'll draft a quarterback this year, but it's going to be in the middle rounds. And it's probably next year that maybe they'll look, or the year after that they'll look at drafting a quarterback in the first or second round.
And it's hard to draft a quarterback when you're drafting in the low 20s. So, I mean, in the high 20s or, low 20s. By then, most of them are gone unless you really hit on a gem.
But Lamar Jackson was number, 31?
Yeah, that's it. But, I mean, look at how many teams had passed on him. We'll see. I'm very interested in the draft.
But this is why they're like Preston Smith, and probably you might see somebody like Larry Ogunjobi being let go for these additional cap savings, because there's a lot of moves that they have to make. So we might see a couple other players dropped here over the next week or two.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. Mr. Scott, are the Rams contenders without Cooper Kupp and Stafford? There's rumors that Stafford might be headed to the Jets.
Why?
Money.
Right. Well, why would he go to the Jets? I mean, the Jets. I mean, he's doing great in L.A. I mean, to me, he's still a quality quarterback.
Okay.
And they're a quality team actually, and they kind of showed that at the end of the year when everybody got healthy. They made a good showing for themselves. I don't understand that talk about letting. So are they letting him go to these teams? Are they going to trade Stafford?
Well,
How would
they're
that work?
saying they're saying that Stafford's on the trading block. Cooper Cup is on the trading block. Uh, Cooper Cup they had said that he was on the trading block practically right after the game was over. Stafford is kind of a new one to the game, but you know, what do you think? Are they contenders without the two of them, or you still think they still got Kyron was Williams the running back? They got they'll still have what's the kid Nakua? And the 49ers aren't. We don't know what they're going to be doing. So I mean, the West might be a little open. What do you think?
Well, I think they should run it back with those two guys. I mean, I don't know why they're disgruntled or upset with them. Or I mean, Stafford still seems like a quality quarterback to me. I know he's getting up there. What is he like? 37, maybe 38?
37,
37.
30,
Yeah.
okay.
So I mean, that's getting close to the use by date. But from what I saw, he still looked good, and Cup seems like a good part of their offense. So why would they? I don't understand that move.
Well, the other, like you said, Stafford's 38. I'm not sure what his cap hit is going to be. So I mean that's still for Stafford. I'm going to say age. For Cup, I'm going to say age and the fact that his salary hit. But I'm kind of with you here. I try to run it back if I possibly could,
Yeah.
especially I mean you 49ers doubtful. The Seahawks they won 10 games, but the Rams beat them twice. So uh, I'm just saying I can see finances, but as far as keeping the team cohesive, I think I'd run it back another year if I could. Dave, what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, you know, the quarterbacks they had behind him last year were Jimmy Garoppolo and that Stetson Bennett.
Yeah.
Where they're going to create a hole, they're going to trade them away, and then they got to fill a big hole that they just had.
Well,
And
they'll definitely probably get rid of Jimmy G.
yeah, but I mean, they have to have a quarterback, and so they have one, and to Anthony's point, they have one in Stafford. So it's almost like I think what they need to do is they need to stick with him for another year, and maybe pick up another quarterback, maybe in free agency, maybe in the draft, maybe like a Howard from Ohio State. I got to see where the Rams are in the draft, but. It would hurt them more to lose Stafford at this point than Cup. They could withstand losing Cup. They
Yeah.
could not withstand losing Stafford.
Yeah.
Now, maybe they draft a quarterback like a Howard from Ohio State or somebody like that, depending on where they're at in the draft. With Cup, he's still under contract. They would take, I think, a pretty good dead money hit, if I'm not mistaken. They would take a $22 million dead money hit and have a cap savings of $7 million. So, I think that they should probably ride with him another year. They're both under contract. ride another year, and then look to the draft and free agency to maybe identify some prospects to take their place in 2026.
Speaking of quarterbacks, I just keep thinking, where does the great Shador? Where is the great Shador fitting into this puzzle? I thought he was going to be coming out.
He is with Cam Ward.
Yeah, we
Cam Ward, yeah.
We had talked about Mr. Scott, but we can go back. What do you think? Do you think talking about Cam Ward and Shadir? Do you think that their stock has dropped in these last couple of weeks, or with all these different teams needing quarterbacks? Do you think that it stayed the same or it's increased?
Well, I think Ward is trending upward. I mean, when we just talked about all the aging quarterbacks and people need someone, he'd be a perfect guy if you could stash him for a year or so. I think he'd be a good one. As far as Shador, once I heard the rap game and I heard the song and I heard it's just like that's done deal for me. No. This is. He seems to have some ability. Is he going to be a quarterback leader? Boy, I haven't really. He probably should play another year in college, actually. But the money's out there, so. But no, I don't see him as an upper echelon. Probably a later round draft pick now. That's how I look at it.
Oh, so you think Shadir has went down, but Cam Ward has stayed or bettered his draft?
Yeah, I think he's trending up. I think Cam Ward is. I think Shadir is trending down.
Yeah. Okay.
And I know your affinity for the rap game and crip walking. I understand that, James. I mean, that's fine. I'm not here to criticize people for things that they like and that they want to be around. That's not what I do.
There are certain things that I do like certain raps, just like I like certain jazz artists. Right now I'm kind of into jazz violin music, but I do kind of like to kind of keep my music senses open here.
Well, you don't have to explain to me. I mean, I'm just
no,
average. I mean, something. I'm not a. I mean,
as a matter of fact, if you want to hear more, I'm doing a show Friday. About the halftime show. I have a young man from here in San Diego that's just got out of college. He's in his, I think he's 26. I have another gentleman that's in his 40s and a gentleman that's in his 50s. So I was trying to cover the generations here and see what they thought about the halftime show. So if you want to tune in Friday, 6:00, you can hear the conversation. And if you let me know, you can even join the conversation. But I know you don't like to talk about rap music, so
I can definitely I can put them in their place. I just might want to do that Friday. I don't think I've got my granddaughter's not going to be here this Friday, so I might have an open Friday. Send me a link. Yeah,
I definitely will.
I may not want to hear what I have to say, but that's
No, this is open. I mean, there's a lot of times I don't want to hear what you have to say when you talk about my Steelers, but
Well, I mean, I will do that. I mean, Kendrick Lamar getting a Pulitzer Prize. I mean, come on. How far is this thing? How far is this thing?
Mr. Scott, I'm not on the Pulitzer Prize committee. I could only tell you what they did. Just I saw the man.
It used to be a very prestigious. It would be very prestigious, to get that. And you look up to the people that got it. And then this nonsense. It's a plant. It's installed for some reason. And so, but anyway, I digress.
I think what we should do, Mr. Scott, I think we'll have your final thoughts and then we'll get Dave. I assume. So give us your final thoughts, Mr. Scott.
Well, just like I was just saying, the abomination of that All-Star game is just, I mean, how low can these things go? I mean, in structure, here you have all this talent there and you don't use it. You have all these great players and they, I mean, take my talents. He walks in at the last minute. Oh, I can't play. Instead of telling them that he couldn't play, they could have got somebody else in that wanted to do it. But even though in itself, the games, the whole thing is just deteriorated.
Didn't Steph Curry win the MVP?
Just a deterioration of
didn't Steph
halftime
win the
shows.
MVP,
It's
Mr. Scott?
deteriorated. It's just a big deterioration.
He's kind of old school, isn't he? You didn't like Steph winning the MVP? What, for the OGs or something? I even
That's what I'm saying. The whole thing is just deteriorated into farcical. Kevin Hart. Oh boy, So that's my final thought. I mean, that's I've had it.
Dave, you got to.
Well, I mean, one thing, message for hope for you there, Anthony. The NHL. I went, at the beginning of the show before you came on, Sue's Corner was about the NHL format.
Oh yeah, they had a fight right away, didn't they? In the All-Star game.
They had a fight, but they're having this nations format, and it's really been very popular. And the players, they're playing full tilt. I mean, they are playing as if they're in the gold medal game of the Olympics, or if they're in the final of the Stanley Cup. And so, the hope might be that if the NBA followed a similar format where maybe they had a game of the USA NBA stars against the world NBA stars for bragging rights. And I think if you had a format like that, you might get the players, they might have some skin in the game. And it might be a more exciting game. So, maybe there's hope. They can always change. I don't watch the NBA All-Star games. I don't watch the Pro Bowl stuff.
No, that's
flag football.
I
mean that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I agree with you on that. But maybe if they follow the example of the NHL, not exactly what they did, but something similar. Like the world against the USA. I would probably watch that game because I like watching Olympic basketball. I don't watch NBA basketball, but I enjoy
Olympics. Are very competitive.
I like the game. It's a different game than the NBA brand. And but I would probably watch a game if it was the world against the USA All-Star game, NBA All-Star game. But for my final thought, I'm just going to talk about unintended consequences. This is in the world of college wrestling. And, one of the impacts of trying to help the student athletes, with the NIL and the transfer portal has been the increase in college scholarships. And what they did with wrestling is they said, okay, you can now have 30 scholarships, but you're capped at 30 athletes on your roster. Because in college wrestling, you have 10 wrestling weight classes. Well, the unintended consequence of that is that, like, for example, at Penn State, they've always allowed to have a lot of walk-ons try to compete. And these are guys that would never be able, really to wrestle in a dual meet, but they're good enough to wrestle like a Carter Starace and Aaron Brooks, the best wrestlers in the country to improve their skills and maybe get a shot to enter some tournaments. But because of this new rule, that's going to kind of eliminate the walk-ons at Penn State. And I just think it's a shame because the walk-ons are, like, to me, those are the real college athletes. They're not getting college scholarships. They're doing it because of their love of the sport. But then they're being squeezed out because we're trying to reward these professional athletes now that are playing sports in college. So, that's just my final thought. There's always, you're trying to do the right thing, but there's always unintended consequences with the right thing that you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, it's a good lesson there. Good lesson. So, Mr. Scott, thank you so much for your presence once again. Any special events or anything coming up with the book?
Well, I did a talk last week to a group of seniors. It was really a great talk. 50 people were there, and they bought all my books. And I wanted to go to something today. I was invited to this, I might have mentioned him before, Frank White, who wrote a book on black baseball in this area, the history of it. And he was getting an award from the Twins. And doggone it, it was so cold out, I didn't want to drive over to St. Paul. I mean, it's terrible. So there's that. And then there's something tomorrow. I'm going to probably try to get out. It's supposed to be above zero. Yay! Above zero. And he's an artist, and he's doing something at an art gallery. We actually went to high school together. And my dad and his mom went to high school together in Chicago. So we've been close friends for many years. So I want to check him out. But nothing else, Black History Month, other than our documentary. We finally got the rest of the funding, and that's going to be coming out in May. And I'm putting together some music for that. And I've actually even approached a few rappers. I've actually approached them. Yeah. My disdain isn't total. I don't have total disdain, but they're part of the community. So, but yeah, so that's it's been a little slower Black History Month for me this year, which is fine. But the ones that I've had have been pretty well attended, and so that's all you can ask for.
All right. Well, maybe if you can get one above zero, you might be doing. Hey, I guess it kept the George Floyd Square pretty empty.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I just got something. Did it come today? Some meeting they want me to come to about George Floyd Square. I mean, when is it? The 26th. So they still can't figure out what they want to do. They're just mired in, I don't know what they're doing. They just need to open the street up. Let's make it into a nice corridor. Let's get back to normal. But
how many years ago is that now?
Well, it's 5, going on 5 years. Yeah. Yeah, this makes no sense. That makes no sense. Like I said, I was in St. Louis when the Michael Brown deal happened, and was in St. Louis last year. You never knew that they tore everything. I mean, everything's built back. People are out going to work, waiting for the bus, doing what they needed to do. I mean, it's just, I'm not sure what they're even trying to do here, but I'll keep applying pressure. That's all I can do. I just keep applying pressure.
All right, guys. Well, hey, I appreciate everybody's time, and hopefully, some of the guys will be back next week. But both you guys stay warm. I hate to tell you it'll be 71 degrees here tomorrow, but
high at 28 here.
Like I say, you got me beat, so I'm not in this.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your basketball, Mr. Scott. I forgot to ask you about how Mr. Edwards has been playing. I know you don't like Mr. Gobert, but maybe now that you're without Towns, you've developed an appreciation for Mr. Gobert. But
yeah, he is what he is. He's doing his role underneath the basket. No, that's you're not going to get any threes, any of that from him. So I think he's doing a good job.
All right, well, hey, have a great weekend. Look forward to talking with everybody, and stay warm.
All right. See you all next week.
Do our best.